From the News Channel 5 Network, this is MorningLine with Nick Barris.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us on MorningLine. Nick Barris here on a Wednesday. So how are you doing? Hope you're having a good morning. When's the last time maybe you went to a department store, or you went to a restaurant or a fast food establishment, and for whatever reason, maybe things didn't go exactly how you liked it. Maybe you felt you waited in line too long, your French fries were cold, they rang you up wrong at the register. How did you handle that? I think we all have had situations where maybe the service was not completely up to snuff for a variety of reasons, but more and more now these days, the employees in these situations maybe are having issues with how they're performing because they're the only ones on the job that day. We've heard all about how there's help wanted signs everywhere. Employers are having trouble finding people to work for them. Of course, against all of this is the backdrop of COVID requirements in place. And what I'm driving at here is a large picture of something that actually is going to impact the economy. But the fact that so many employees these days are fed up with the way they're being treated, oftentimes by angry and perturbed customers, that they've had it and they're walking away, or they're not able to employers find people to work for them because it's a hostile work environment based on the customers. And I certainly, look, I've waited in lines at fast food restaurants of late, and it's a lot longer than I'm used to, and I just cool my jets because I realize more likely than not it's a long wait because the people behind the counter there, it's 2 or 3 of them instead of the normal staff of maybe 10, and they're doing the best they can. So I'm very easy with that, and I've gotten used to it now. Not that I like it, but it's no one's fault, certainly not their fault, and they shouldn't take the heat for it. We're going to talk about that and basically the whole mood out there right now with the way things are going, the economy, the service industry, and the like. Our guest with us this morning is Dr. Richard Tarpey. He's assistant professor at MTSU. Good morning to you, sir. Management and supply chain economics. You've been in labor management and the like. So you kind of know what I'm talking about right now. I mean, set the stage for the way you see what's happening right now. I guess it's not just the service industry, but it maybe starts there. It's in the airline industry, healthcare, and the like. What do you see?
So, I don't really see this as a new phenomena. It's really more of a widespread occurrence of an existing phenomenon. So if we think back for the last 2-3 decades, we've always seen stories of customers who, under a great deal of stress and anxiety, end up fighting in the store to get in the store on Thanksgiving Day, if you remember those stories. Way back, maybe in the 80s, way back for a lot of people. Grown adults fighting in stores for a particular toy for their kid at Christmas, or even run up to hurricanes, right? People fighting for supplies that are in short supply. Right. So I think what we have now is just a much more widespread occurrence of that same thing. People under a great deal of stress and anxiety tend to externalize that anxiety in many times unhealthy ways in situations where they're not feeling their expectations are getting met. Right. And really that's the case we have now, right? So people have been under stress for 18 months. 12 to 18 months because of COVID. Yeah, the pandemic. So they've been told what to do, they've been told who to see, they've been told where they can go, where they can't go. Even in some states where there's been arbitrary, this store must close, this store can remain open. So we have people under a lot of stress with expectations not being met. Now they're coming out of their houses, they're coming out of their quarantines, and they're being thrust into social situations where, again, expectations aren't being met, and they're reacting in interesting ways. Right,
okay, and yeah, you're talking about the supply and all of this. I was doing a story this morning on how there's still so many ships just off the coast of the Los Angeles harbor right now waiting, to come in and deliver their goods, and the tractor trailers have to bring them. So products and goods, you're right, are going to be scarce in some ways, especially with the holiday season. Sure. How does it manifest itself then? I mean, many of us, or most of us, work, okay? But depending, it's the nature of the job. What type of jobs, what type of employees are feeling this stress the most? And what I'm talking about is, right, we're all feeling what's happened with the pandemic, but the fact that they're taking the brunt of it because of the way they're being treated by customers.
The types of employees, so it's the frontline employees, right? It's the customer-facing employees. Sure. Yeah. So if you think about, you had mentioned healthcare and airlines. Yeah. Belligerent customers have been a problem for healthcare and airlines forever. The difference is, of course, on a much smaller scale, the employees in those industries, certainly in healthcare, they're much better trained to handle that as part of their training to be a nurse. Nurses are trained to de-escalate. They're trained to handle and adapt to those type of situations. Flight attendants, same thing. They get more training as far as what to do in those situations. Frontline service at your fast food, your restaurants, and your retail stores, they really don't get that kind of training, right? So these are typically lower paid employees who receive minimal training, and then we're thrusting them forward right now to be the vaccine police, the mask police, and we're asking these individuals who aren't trained to de-escalate very tense situations, because we're historically a society of people who don't like to be told what to do. And now we have untrained people who are not equipped telling you to put your mask on. So when the customer pushes back, those retail clerks and those fast food clerks really don't know how to handle that and don't know how to de-escalate it necessarily.
Okay, so then they take the heat of it. As you said, a lot of them maybe aren't that well paid. And so they quit. It's like driving some of this. Workers in restaurants, bars, and hotels are walking away from their jobs, the most. Some in retail. Just this past August, the folks just walking away from their jobs. Now, they're quitting. Is that without having other work? I mean, and we do know that there are help wanted signs everywhere.
Yeah. Now, if you'd asked me that 8 months ago or back when the stimulus was still in effect, I think a lot of people quit without having other jobs. Many times the stimulus was more than they were getting paid.
Right, okay.
So that's gone. Most of that's gone. The states have mostly ended that, with the exception of a few states. But really, if you think about today, if I'm working at a fast food store, and I'm making maybe $10, $11 an hour, if that's a good pay. Some are getting up to that $15 an hour wage that everybody's talking about. Well, Amazon's coming in and hiring pickers in the warehouse, and they're getting paid $16 an hour. Why wouldn't I change jobs? Why wouldn't I go work in a warehouse and not be bothered with people who are upset, bothered with the whole restaurant, fast food industry, or even the retail store industry? I can go work in a warehouse and not be bothered. Now, of course, those jobs have their own stresses, but when I look at it from the perspective of I don't have to worry about people berating me, people being ugly to me on a day-to-day basis, and mentally that affects you. People can only work under that kind of stress for so long. So I think a lot of the people are going to the supply chain jobs and other jobs that are currently open. You said there's help wanted signs all over the place, and even getting better paid.
And again, trying to understand how consumers, the customers, deal with it. I've heard it described as consumers were so used to, before the pandemic, what they would call a frictionless economy. All right, that's no tolerance now for slowdowns. And like I said, I was kind of that. I was spoiled. We were spoiled. It was kind of I was used to going to through a fast food drive-through, and it goes pretty quick. That's the whole beauty of fast food. I mean, do I go there because I love the food? Sure, I like French fries, but no, it's quick and easy, and you're through it. And now you get to a line, and you're waiting 15-20 minutes to make your way through. It's frustrating, but again, like I said, I don't blame them for that. Is that what it is? It's like we've been spoiled to a degree, and it's been a while, but shouldn't customers recognize that now and try to treat people with a little more dignity?
I don't think customers think it through that far. So if you think about it, for the last 100 years, industries have innovated and gotten to the point where they can deliver mass customization, deliver the products consumers want when they want it, almost immediately now.
Right.
And that's taken a long time to get there. Now we're coming out of the pandemic, and again, we're back to expectations. Consumers expect that. We're walking out of our houses, we're going to stores, we're going to restaurants, and finding that we can't get what we want immediately, exactly what we want or when we want it. And that creates frustration for people. And I think people in those instances, especially people who are under a lot of stress already, don't think it through all the way. And remember, these folks have been, the last 18 months, socially interacting on the internet, where there's low consequences. People are saying and doing whatever they want on the internet, and you can get away with that without any consequence. I think a lot of people are taking that mentality out into social environments now, thinking, well, I can say whatever I want to the clerk. And if you think about it, when we have a problem with a company, we generally tend to blame the face in front of us. Right? So if you're on the airplane and the flight's delayed, you blame the flight attendant, you blame the pilot, even though it's not their fault. If you're at a local store and they don't have what you want, you blame the clerk. The fast food restaurant, you blame the poor person in the window who's taking your money. It's their fault somehow. And I think people just don't really think it through, and they just knee-jerk react.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Listen, we'll take a break. When we come back, we've got some phone calls. If you'd like, what I'd like to hear from some of our viewers is maybe you've been on both sides of this. I mean, have you been through it? Have you been in a situation, or you know of someone as an employee who's really taken the brunt of an unfair criticism from a customer? And on the other side of the coin, maybe sometimes these employees are not always as receptive to customers when they have maybe a legitimate question or complaint, and so the service is not up to snuff. But I'd like to hear from you, your take on how that is. When we come back too with our guest, Professor Tarpey, how this really affects the economy one way or the other. We know it does. So we'll take a break, be back with more of our conversation right after this. Stay with us.